Welcome to another edition of Whether or Not. Today, we look at whether or not there really is a climate crisis going on, just briefly. All right. It's tweaked my interest that the climate spokesperson now from Sweden, Greta Thunberg, is on her way to speak at the United Nations conference in New York City next month. I don't think she's left yet, but she's going to make the journey in a fossil fuel free yacht that takes, I guess, 6 weeks to cross the Atlantic. Now, I have a couple of questions. I gotta be careful. First of all, I can't put her picture on because it's against YouTube rules because she is a minor. All right. Secondly, by questioning, you got to watch out. People take that as criticism. I certainly just wish to show people using the fact that this person has gained notoriety for what she said. I'd like to show people the other side of the argument. So it gets crazy nowadays because you're not allowed to show the other side of the argument. Instead of saying, well, I'm attacking that information they're given and countering it, they say, no, you're attacking the person. I'm not attacking the person. It could be anybody that's saying the same thing. But first of all, who in the world has the money and time to do what she's about to do, right? I mean, isn't that an indictment of the whole idea that we shouldn't use fossil fuels? You take 6 weeks to cross the Atlantic. Do you have the money to do that? Do you have people behind you? I mean, just imagine if you had to get business done. And it's just nuts to me. I'll tell you what else is nuts. What are you doing crossing the Atlantic during the height of the hurricane season? The cynical part of me makes me think, well, maybe they want something to happen because then they can draw attention to how ferocious the storms are in the North Atlantic, even though the hurricane season this year, we've been out in front with this, will be less than average. That's what we believe. But still, there are going to be big storms in the North Atlantic, October, November, and you're crossing the North Atlantic. Now, here's some just specific questions, and I'm just wondering what she is against. She claims that we're going into a climate catastrophe, climate crisis, climate emergency, all these things we hear. Yet we see deaths from climate and non-climate catastrophes. This is non-climate down here. The climate-related have plummeted in the fossil fuel area. Okay, so this is in population and food. Let me get that off there, okay? That's behind it. What this is personal GDP and life expectancy on a global scale. Is she against that? So is she against the plummeting of climate-related deaths, and is she against the increase in personal prosperity and life expectancy, which would intuitively lead to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, better opportunity for that? So again, this is not population and food here. Is she against the fact that the planet is now at the greenest levels that it's ever been in the satellite era and greening up even faster, right? Now, here's the population and food. Is she against all the food being grown? So, see, this is what I'd like to know. I'd like to know that if you see this, or even if you have been exposed to it, exposed to one side of the issue, you're whipping kids into a frenzy so that they're going out and protesting. But what are they protesting? Do they want less population and less food? They want people to die and starve? I mean, I don't get this. Now, finally, I'd also like to hear the explanation of the linkage between CO2 and purple and temperatures. Or is it the other way? I don't know. It doesn't look like much of a linkage between CO2 and temperature. In fact, it looks like there's nothing there, but that's the geological history of the Earth. And you wonder why a lot of geologists don't believe this stuff. And finally, and this is the question that has to be answered. I'm not picking on her from the whole other side of the argument. Why is this a climate emergency here when these other periods that were warmer were referred to as climate optimum. And I'll tell you why, because people retire to the Sun Belt, not to the Arctic Circle. Life does better when it's warmer, and it's a lot less cruel, and it's a lot longer. Okay, but those are some questions I would ask and hope that they get answered. And let's pray that. Uh, I'm serious about this. I don't want to see any harm to come people that crossing the North Atlantic in a fossil fuel less yacht at the height of the hurricane season doesn't result in some kind of uh, debacle, disaster. I don't know. Seems, to put it nicely, it's a bold move. To put it another way, seems to me to be very foolhardy. That's it for now. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.